Number one, I want to be an all-around better cyclist. In that 2 to 3 months out from a race, I'll start out with about 5 to 7 minute intervals in that aero position. Scientifically, I'm sure my triathlon bike specific fitness would be optimized. Morning, Trainees. Now, if you haven't heard yet, and I'm gonna bet that you haven't because I know not a lot of people are listening to the Triathlon Trainee Ask podcast, but they're gold, they're up. They're not just about, hey, you ask me a question and then I answer it and that person gets an answer and it's just in a podcast form. Like, I know that you all tune in for triathlon tips and it's just a big in-depth tip every day that you can listen to in under 10 minutes. So go check it out in all the podcast players, Triathlon Trainee Ask podcast. Check it out. Now, one of the questions that's been asked in one of those first episodes is, hey, Taren, I see that you're on a road bike right now. Yeah, I use a combination of a road bike, a tri bike, occasionally right now, a fat bike, want to get into some mountain biking, and there's really 4 reasons why I do that. Number one, I want to be an all-around better cyclist. Number 2, I want to be injury-free. Number 3, I want to be safer. Number 4, I want to be mentally engaged. I'm going to discuss how I use each of those bikes in different circumstances to accomplish all of those 4 things, basically resulting in me being a better triathlete. I'm going to apologize right now. I don't have a shirt right now. I know viewership is just going to plummet and unsubscribes are gonna go through the roof. Okay, so a road bike, a tri bike, a mountain bike, a fat bike, they all put you into different cycling positions, forcing you to use different muscles to turn those pedals. Because you're in different cycling positions, you end up building fitness in all different muscle groups that relate to handling a bike, your core, turning those pedals over, bringing the pedals back up. And what happens is you develop more overall bike depth.
Hey, bye.
Hey, bye. Love you. And that overall bike depth allows you to ward off injuries, because when you get yourself into an odd circumstance, like maybe you're into a serious crosswind, your body really has to brace and tense up, it's going to be fitter and more strong to be able to handle that. In addition to that, when you get into a tri and you've got to all of a sudden shift gears, you've got to deal with hills, you've got a corner, and you're putting your body into different circumstances for little fractions of a second, it's going to be more apt to be able to handle those. And all those little micro adjustments aren't going to take nearly as much out of your body, so you're going to be fresher, you're going to bike faster. Now, safety. As soon as you get into a group, a road bike is critical. On a tri bike, you don't have shifters and brake levers in the exact same position where your hands are all the time. You've got to move your hands back and forth to shift or to brake. That's not very safe. So I tend to ride in a group a lot, which I'm going to talk about in a second. And as soon as you start doing that, you got to get yourself a road bike for not just the safety of you, but the safety of everyone else. And frankly, we don't allow people with tri bikes to ride in our group because it's just like they got pointy skewers out the front of their bike. Come on, this isn't Chariots of Fire here, folks. Now, the third thing is that I want to stay mentally engaged as an athlete throughout the entire year. And scientifically, I'm sure my triathlon bike specific fitness would be optimized if all I did was triathlon aero position over and over and over and over throughout the entire year. But practically speaking, like in application real life, if that's all I did personally, I would go brain dead. I'd go numb. I need the interaction of people around me, so I get a road bike. In the off season lately, I've been doing a little bit of fat biking, get myself into a different position in different circumstances, different types of terrain, different types of riding. And what I find is that keeps my excitement levels high. And by constantly changing it up, I'm always biking, and I'm always biking with a lot of intention. And I think that personally, that makes me a better cyclist, even though the science might say spend as much time as you can in the aero position. Okay, now how do you actually decide when it's okay to use a different bike versus your tri bike? First off, if you're in a group, road bike. We've already covered that. Write that down. No. Secondly, I start getting antsy about being on my tri bike as much as possible about 2 to 3 months out from a race. I want to start getting my upper body used to being in that aero position. In that 2 to 3 months out from a race, I'll start out with about 5 to 7 minute intervals in that aero position with somewhere around 5 to 7 minute breaks in between. Starting at around 4 to 6 weeks from a race, I tend to shift almost entirely over to tri bike, and I'm doing tri bike aero position riding for 2-3+ hours on end, so that becomes my happy spot. And it's as easy as that. And then after a race, I'll go back to a little bit more road riding, a little bit more commuting, maybe this year a little bit of mountain biking. The whole idea is to keep things fresh, keep giving your body different stimuli so that your body is always adapting and not just getting in the mode of, all right, I'm doing this one motion over and over and over and over, because that's when you start hitting plateaus. That's when you start getting a little squirrely up here. That's when you start burning out and losing your motivation to train, which I never ever want to be battling. I will give up a little bit of short-term triathlon specific fitness for the long-term goal of ideally making Kona someday. Existing subscriber Trainiacs, hit me up in the comments below with what your favorite non-triathlon bike is. And if you're new here, you're not yet subscribed, please consider doing so for all of our daily triathlon video goodness, where I spend an entire video trying to cover up my nipples for you. You're welcome, by the way. That was a solid little brick workout I just did. Very solid.